So welcome everyone for the Dharma talk. Let's give it a few minutes. People may trickle in the next couple of minutes. And yes, they're trickling in. Okay. Okay, once again, welcome everyone. My name is Santosh Philip, and I have, I don't know, 7 or 8 people on the screen, 3 people in front of me, but I'm going to talk to the 3 people in front of me. They took the trouble of coming here. You guys just listen. I think I know everybody, so I can talk in a relaxed way. So this talk is on beauty and the senses as a pathway to practice. The way I put the talk together, it's actually a complex topic. And I have a number of notes, and this talk is going to meander through them with some practices thrown in. So the title of the talk is there, and there is a quote that it starts off with. There is beauty that you have not yet seen. There is sound that carries consciousness to heavenly spheres. There is fragrance more exquisite than the rarest incense. There is joy that expands beyond ecstasy and dissolves the seeds of suffering. This is a quote from the book, Joy of Being. This is the book. And for the screen, that is the book. So this quote is pointing to a kind of beauty that seems almost inconceivable to us. It is not, doesn't seem like the ordinary beauty. It seems something beyond that. So the question is, how do we contact this kind of beauty? How do we even know it is there? And what happens when we touch this beauty? So we will take a stab at it and see if we can sense it and touch it. And then it asks the question, will it really dissolve our suffering? How would that work? And not sure I can answer that, but I will speak a few words about it and see if it strikes a chord in you. So primarily my talk is going to be on this book, Joy of Being. And the title of the book, Joy of Being, it is evoking the quality that there is a joy in just being, which we may not be in contact with. This book is also significant in the sense that it is a Kumye book. And for some of you, I may have to explain what Kumye is. And since this talk is recorded, I may have an audience that has never done Kumye, so I'll have to talk about what is Kumye. So Kumye is a yogic practice with very slow movements that was introduced here in the early 70s in America. It is a modern version of a very old practice, modified a little for the Western body and mind. So it is made for you. The practices are fairly simple, slow movement, and there's a particular way you sense into sensations as you do the practice. In 1975, I think 75, a book was published that had 100 exercises of Kumye. This book was published in 2000, and it is a very different book. It takes the physical movement practices and takes them into the senses in a very refined way, and then takes the practices into a quality of mind and working with the mind. So this book was quite a big departure from the previous book for those who have done Kumne. This will make, what I'm saying will make some sense. For those who haven't done Kumne, just hang in there. So I started teaching from this book in the early 2000s. And about that time, there was a Dharma talk where the editor of this book spoke about the background to this book and where this comes from. She talked about a number of things about the book, but she mentioned one thing which was not apparent in the book, that these practices were built around a school of aesthetics in India that reached its heights of development in about the 12th century. And by school of aesthetics, meaning it's about what is beauty. And that philosophy or understanding of beauty was applied to all arts, and she gave a range of arts. It applied to landscape, paintings, sculpture, perfumes, incense, food as in taste of food, music, architecture, drama, costumes, clothing. It's like, wait a minute, you can actually have a single school of aesthetic that encompasses the whole thing. But for a long time, I didn't know who this, she didn't say at that, I don't think she said who it was, what the school was and who the person was. So for a long time, I didn't know where this was coming from. And then one day by accident, I was in a secondhand bookstore and I picked up a book, not because it looked good, but because it was only $5. So in those days, if it is $5, I just buy it. So it's a very strange looking title. It is called Geek Sublime. It is written by a writer. And it's an Indian writer. And I realized the other reason I bought the book was I had read a fiction work by this author. And so I started reading this book, and this book is about how he became an author. And in that, he describes how he had come to a writing workshop in Texas in 1995. And for those of you who are old enough may remember that Windows 95 was released on that year. He didn't have enough money. So he became tech support for Windows 95. And he's a writer, he doesn't know anything about computers. So he was very quickly learning about computers. And he got very interested in the logic of computers. And because he's Indian and he's a writer, he did a little bit of research on this. And he discovered that there was a grammarian in India in 300 BC who wrote, I think it's a 40-page or 30-page series of verses that describes all grammar and all grammar of all computer languages. And today there are conferences on this grammarian. His name is Panini. And so he got very intrigued by this, and he was also kind of getting stuck in his writing course because he could not write like Hemingway. And they were trying to make him write like Hemingway. This was not working. It was not fitting his psyche. And he couldn't understand why that was so, because he wanted to write well. And then he discovered these two people who were who kind of developed the school of aesthetics One was in the 9th century, the other was in the 12th century. And this whole thing started actually probably 3rd century BC. And the final development took place in the 12th century. So I'm going to jump the gun and go to the end game and tell you what these guys did and why. And I was kind of impressed by it. And I will talk about what they presented. I was going to say what they discovered, kind of discovered. It is a way of describing how do you make beauty, how do you recognize beauty. And in the Indian realm, I think we should close that door. We have somebody talking outside. Yeah, the window is also open. My apologies. There's somebody talking right outside the window, and thanks. So in Indian, if you take Indian music, for instance, there is a word called rasa, and rasa means juice or flavor. And in Indian music, you're looking for the rasa of the music, which is the flavor of the music. And that same word is used, flavor or taste is used in Kumne too. So we can start to see the connections. And rasa is, what they did was they defined what rasa was. And there is another word called dwani. Let me make sure the word is right. Dwani is what makes something beautiful. And I'll define what it is now, what dwani is. Dwani is what makes something beautiful. And rasa is what happens in you when you see something beautiful. So they had a very simple way of describing what makes something beautiful and what makes something not beautiful. And let me pull up a small piece of poetry or one line of poetry that will illustrate that. So there is a verse in a poem that says, "The moon rises silently, casting its light on an empty courtyard." If you don't put it poetically, you would say, the moon shines, illuminates a courtyard at night. Same meaning. So what makes, and you can feel that one evokes something in you and sounds beautiful. The other one is flat. It just tells you that the moon is shining in the courtyard. So the moon rises silently, casting its light on the empty courtyard. So what the poetic line does is it evokes a dwani. Now you have the image of an empty courtyard under the moonlight, suggesting loneliness, solitude, or the absence of a loved one, perhaps a lover or a deity. Silence and emptiness evoke a mood of quiet, a yearning, or spiritual reflection. The rasa evoked is tranquility, pathos, or compassion, depending on what the audience picks up on. Why does this work? The poet avoids directly stating the emotion, but the emotion imagery acts as dwani, suggesting a deeper emotional or philosophical state. The audience's imagination fills in the unstated meaning, creating a rich aesthetic experience. So the beauty is in what is not said. So if you have to look for the beauty, you have to look for what is not being said, and the words are set up in such a way that evokes what is not being said. There is another example. This is a good one. It's in context. A 5th century Gupta sculpture shows the Buddha seated in meditation with a serene expression and a faint smile carved in stone. This is at Sarnath. The ordinary meaning of it is a sculpture depicting a seated figure in a meditative pose. Okay. The dhwani that starts to evoke the rasa in you is the serene expression, the closed eyes, the minimalist composition suggesting inner peace, spiritual awakening, a detachment from worldly desires. This sculpture evokes a contemplative state in the viewer, hinting at Buddha's enlightenment. And you can look at actually any of the sculptures, the ones behind me as such. You could have a human figure just sitting in a cross-legged position and it will not evoke the same thing. So this quality runs across all the arts. We've described it in poetry, in sculpture. It is there in music. It is there in painting. There is an interesting example here. There is a painting from the 17th century depicting Radha and Krishna sitting in a lush garden surrounded by lotuses and peacocks with Radha gazing at Krishna. These are two lovers. One is a god, actually. So ordinary meaning is it shows two figures in a romantic setting. The dhwani is the lush garden, the peacocks, which is a symbol of love. Radha's expression, glance, suggesting a deeper narrative of love and longing. And the painting implies a spiritual union of soul and divine, beyond the mere depiction of romantic scene. So it lies in the symbol. In this case, it's in the symbolic elements that sometimes in some of this, the people have to be educated to understand it. So if you come from a different culture and you look at a miniature painting of this kind, and it may not touch you at all because you're not attuned to it. So does that mean that to understand beauty, you have to understand the cultural context, the context of where the painting is, the style of painting, and these practitioners say that you have to have some attunement to that, which means it doesn't seem to be universal. But in the joy of being, even though it picks on these qualities, it gives you a method that is universal. It doesn't, you don't have to know a particular culture or way of working with art to see the beauty. And what we'll do is we'll do a few practices to attune to that. Okay, so I spent some time describing what the school of aesthetics was, which was a little dry, although it made sense. Now I'm going to talk a little about, there is one particular aspect I forgot to mention. The 12th century practitioner talks about rasa and says that rasa is not emotion. And this is an important part. Rasa is not emotion, although what is being communicated may be emotion. It may be a happy emotion. It may be like the moonlight in the courtyard would be a emotion of loneliness, longing for somebody who's not there. Those are emotions. But the rasa is not the feeling of the emotion, but they kind of say it's like if you take that emotion and you chew on it, something comes out of that that is not part of the emotion. And that is the rasa. Chew is not the right word, but when you chew on it, it brings up something in your embodiment. And he says that the rasa is the enjoyment happening in the consciousness. Let's see if I have the right quote. Yeah. During the experience of rasa, according to Abhinavagupta, which is the 12th century practitioner, what is enjoyed is the consciousness itself. That's interesting. You're not enjoying the beauty, you're enjoying the consciousness itself. And something in the work of art has evoked something in your consciousness. And the enjoyment is almost as though the consciousness is rubbing on itself through the medium of whatever art you're looking at. And the artist's ability to evoke the rasa in you is the skill. And then he also states that unless you're attuned to that particular art, that rasa will not be evoked in you. That kind of opens the door to the practices in joy of being, because what you're doing in joy of being, and joy of being works with each of the senses. It gives you a pathway to open up the enjoyment of what's the right word? Of what is coming through the senses, so that the enjoyment happens in your consciousness. So my job today is to give you a glimpse of that, which may not be very easy, but we'll have a go at it. So we have a number of senses. We have our 5 senses and the mind also, which is this, we could call it we call it the 6 senses actually. And each of the senses has this ability to touch the consciousness and bring about the rasa of that sense. In Kumne, we do that usually through the words are going to overlap. We touch into this through the sense of touch. So for those who have practiced Kumne and those who have not practiced Kumne, one entry point is to tune into sensations of touch in your body, and do that as you're sitting. As you sit, notice any sensation of touch. And you'll find that almost any sensation of touch in your body has got words around it, has got stories around it, has got explanations of why it feels that way. And usually when you first tune into a sense of touch in your body, you're likely to tune into something that hurts, which means you do have a story around it. So almost all sensations in your body are caught in a thicket of words and language and explanations and stories and histories. So you're not really sensing that sense, what is coming through that sense organ or sense, there's no sense organ, okay, for touch. So sense, what do you call it? Sense faculty. What is coming through that sense faculty. But Kumne has got a very, very quick and fast method that cuts through the thicket of words and things that are blocking you from actually sensing. And so go into that, whatever sensation you have right now, and tune into that sensation without the words. So let's say my hip is hurting right now. So I'm going to say, oh, that's because I've been sitting like this for some time. But if I go into the sensation itself as sensation, and do that with any sensation you have in your body, let go of the words, let go of the labels, and sense the sensation directly. And you'll find that the sensation, when you let go of the words, let go of the labels, the names, it will come across differently. It will come across, it will taste different. You may touch into the juice of that sensation. There may be layers of sensation. There may be sensations that are arising in other places. And the very sensation you're sensing will not stay still. It will move and change. So this gives you a way of touching into sensation directly. And you have to actually do it while I'm talking for this to make sense. Now let go of that. Let go of that slowly. And that's a very different way of attuning yourself to your senses. In this case, a sense of touch. And you can do that with all the other senses, although a little differently for each one. You can let go of the words and the meanings for each one of those senses. I can say, how is that possible? The sense of touch, I understand, we just did it. Sense of seeing, can I actually do that? When look around you, everything has meaning. There's a chair there, there's a person there, there's a camera there, there's a singing bowl there, there are books here. Everything has meaning. Can you shift your seeing so that you can see and sense the seeing the same way you did for the touch? Maybe, but you don't know how to do it yet. The joy of being gives you a pathway to do that. How about the sense of hearing? Right now we are sitting here and there is a music concert going on there that you may be hearing. Almost all sound has meaning. A car honks at you, it has meaning. Somebody shouts your name, it has meaning. You overhear somebody talking on the phone as we did just now, we were listening to what was going on. All sound have meaning. Can you listen without as just sound? Is there a way to do that? It seems like our consciousness is gripped by meanings in such a way that we may be finding it hard to ease out of it. But go back to the sense of touch. We did manage to do it with the sense of touch. Go back to what you just did. Pick up that same sensation again and go into that sensation. and touch it as directly as sensation, without the words, without the meanings. You can do that. It takes a couple of seconds to do that. Maybe 10, 15 seconds, and you can sink into it. Maybe it's easier to do this with the sense of smell or taste. They have less meaning, don't they? Or do they? Sometimes they have very, very immediate meanings. I don't like that smell. I remember that perfume. Taste, the same. Is it possible to taste without the meaning? Okay, we don't have anything to taste here, but I can take you through an imaginary journey with taste. Imagine you bit into a lemon, a slice of lemon, just you bit into it, and the taste is in your mouth. You can almost see your lips change their shape because of the taste of the lemon. So now you have the taste of the lemon in your mouth, and we kind of made it happen by imagination. When you breathe in, does the taste change? Breathe in and see. When you breathe out, does the taste change? Are you able to shift away from that is the taste of lemon to just taste? Breathe in again. Sense that taste on the inside skin of your mouth. Breathe out. Sense that again. Maybe we can touch into taste directly. Maybe we can do this with the sense of sound also. Shall we try something with sound? I have a little singing bowl here. I'm hoping it picks up the sound. Can you guys online hear it? Okay. Take a moment and listen to that sound. But listen to it as though you are transparent and the sound is just passing through you. As though the sound is not coming from there to here, but there is just sound. And your body is transparent to the sound. You are transparent to the sound. As though there is nobody listening to the sound. There is just sound, and there is no, the sound is not coming from there to here. There's sound everywhere. And your whole body is transparent to sound. There is a sensation of sound deep inside you. And slowly, slowly come out of that. So maybe there's a way to touch into the sense of sound without the meanings, without the words. Is that possible with seeing too? Seems harder. Look around. There are things everywhere. There are names to everything. Let's try something with seeing. Take a moment, just rub your hands briefly, let them warm up. And then just slow it down a bit, slow it down. Bring that to a halt. Draw your palms away from each other. Sense between the palms. And then bring your palms closer. Sensing the energy between your hands. And then bring your palms onto your eyes. Cover your eyes with your cupped palms so your eyes can open and look into the darkness. Let that warmth from your hands penetrate the eye itself. Let it go deep into the eyes. Now gently close your eyes. Close your eyes and remove your hands away from your eyes. You will sense the light coming through the skin of your eyeballs. Now, don't open your eyes yet. I'm going to tell you what to do. When you open your eyes, instead of looking at things, when you open your eyes really slowly, don't open them yet. When you open your eyes, allow light to come in. Allow shapes, shadow, light color to come to your eyes. And there will be a moment before you start seeing things, giving names to things. There'll be a moment before that where you're simply seeing. See if you can get a glimpse of that moment. So very slowly open your eyes, relax completely, and let the light come in. Now with your eyes half open, with light just coming in, before things start locking in, becoming things, they may have already started, but soften that, soften that. Very slowly turn your head to one side. Let the eyes move with the head. And let the colors and light come, whatever they may be, let them come into your consciousness. You'll find that when you start to look at things, your eye may jump. But if you don't look at things, your eye will move smoothly with the head. You can turn to one side and then turn to the other side. As though you're just sensing the seeing itself, not the things you're seeing. And slowly let your head come back to facing forward. Gently let go of that practice. So we did that with seeing, we got a glimpse of it with seeing, a glimpse of it with hearing, maybe something with taste. How about the mind itself? Can you do this with the mind? Ooh, that's a sneaky one. So in this practice, the mind is also considered a sensing organ. What is it sensing? It is sensing thoughts. So can we sense the mind without looking at the content of the mind, but the feel of it as the thoughts run through them? Is that even possible? Oh, it's an interesting idea. Yeah, you can sense it. Maybe you have a lot of thoughts running through it. Maybe you have a few thoughts running through it. Maybe you have thoughts running through it fast. Maybe I've got not so good thoughts running through it, so it doesn't feel as good. Maybe I've got really happy thoughts running through it, so it feels different. So the mind has a feel as the thoughts run through them. Or what, let's not even call it thought, whatever activity is happening in the mind, it has a feel to it. I'm throwing that out as a possibility. But look into your mind and see if you can taste that feel. I'm going to pause here, come out of that. You can think about thoughts now. Come out of that. And I'm going to first ask the audience in front of me, put aside some time for discussion. So How do these insane ideas sound to you? Do you think we can, here's the quote again, there is beauty that you have not yet seen. There is sound that carries consciousness to heavenly spheres. There is fragrance more exquisite than the rarest incense. Oh, is there a possibility we can touch into this? You can say no, yes. Any thoughts arise in your mind? Any questions come up? Any arguments come up? Also, audience in the little rectangles on my screen, you're welcome to raise your hand and speak too. I see a lot of hands are going forward to touch the microphone. Nobody, you're going to say something? No, okay.
It's interesting how, can you hear me?
They can hear you.
Okay, it's interesting how many meditations are about withdrawal of the senses. And here, through the senses is a route to pure consciousness.
That is, you make a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I love what you said about rubbing up against through the sense. You get the opportunity to
It's
that
like,
doorway.
it's like the consciousness rubbing against itself.
Yeah.
And which actually opens a question, because we are not very clear about what we mean when we say consciousness. And in this way of working with the senses, we say that there's a very traditional way of putting it. There is a hearing consciousness that is different from the seeing consciousness, that is different from the mind consciousness. Take a moment and consider that. It's a very different way of considering your embodiment. And actually, that's how we work with this. So when I asked you to listen to sound, as though sound is coming from nowhere, not from there to here, but there was just sound, and your body was transparent, so there was no body sitting here listening to sound coming from there. That was a subtle way of shifting to the hearing consciousness. And we don't know what that is, so we are trying to lightly go in that direction. So there is a hearing consciousness, there is a seeing consciousness, there's a mind consciousness, there's a smell consciousness, there's a taste consciousness, and there's a touch consciousness. And they are all consciousness, but they also have different qualities. If you tune in, it says, seeing consciousness must be sensing very different things from hearing consciousness. It might have a very different feel to it. That is if we take them as different consciousness. And that's an assumption. Of course, we're coming with a different assumption if we say it's only one consciousness.
Santosh?
Yes.
You just said if we tune in, and I find that very helpful. Toward the start of your talk, you were saying, well, do we need to be kind of educated? Do we need to have that aesthetic?
Yeah.
And that cultural background in order to get the juice, you could say. And I think what you've been bringing us to, and also is that that tuning in and attuning itself as a way of being, I think a Kumne way of being,
right,
is something that is very, it has to do with relaxing too. I mean, that's what's also very interesting, that allowing, or that relaxing. So when we're doing this, but what we're doing there's no description necessarily of what's happening, but just an allowing and appreciating.
Yeah.
So for me, it's also discovering what you're having us explore about attuning, and also having enough time, giving ourselves permission to have enough time to taste and really to savor.
Right, right.
And so I thank you for bringing us into these qualities.
And right, you make a very good point, because in all my reading about his name is Abhinava Gupta's talk about aesthetics, he makes it very clear that you need to educate yourself to really see beauty. And if you're not attuned to it, and that is very culturally, there's a cultural context to that. If you come from Europe, it's a little difficult to see the beauty of a Rajasthani miniature painting. These are small paintings. If you're coming from Western classical music and you hear Carnatic music for the first time, you know something beautiful is going on, but it doesn't completely make sense to you. If you come from the Japanese aesthetic, and you come from a Japanese temple and you come into a Hindu temple in India, and you look around and ask, what on earth is going on here? There is simply too much going on there. I see somebody's in a Japanese background, so I'm pulling that up. And you take somebody from that context and take them to a Japanese tea garden, and it's like, why is there nothing happening here? So here in Joy of Being, we are attuning to beauty at a much more elemental level through activating and opening the senses in a very different way. And that is where this quote about you, there is beauty you have never, I forget what exactly the quote is. Just read that. Yeah, there is beauty you have not yet seen. There is sound that carries consciousness to heavenly spheres. There's fragrance more exquisite than the rarest incense. That it is taking that pathway to maybe taking you somewhere far deeper than what Abhinava Gupta's rasa is talking about. But I don't want to downplay Abhinava Gupta. He is, from what I read, he is a very advanced practitioner, and it is said that when he died, the way he died was he and his group of practitioners walked into a cave and they disappeared. Mm-hmm. So we're not talking of lightweight practitioners. But I don't know where they're coming from. This is, 1200 AD.
Santosh?
Yes, Miriam.
There was one moment where I had oh my gosh, when you said, well, now I've been talking about the school of ascetics, and that was very dry. And I thought, oh my God, it was so sweet and succulent. And I'm kind of aware I feel very attuned to the beauty of teaching, because I've had so many good teachers. It's been like my karma is to come across good teachers. And it's like, maybe what makes teaching beautiful is when it's giving sips of the rasa of devotion or of gratitude or whatever one is teaching. And I think if I were to, I would not be nearly as attuned to the rasa of my mind as a sense. It's being problematic right now.
That is a rasa, by the way. The problematic is a rasa.
I prefer the rasa of teaching. I'd like to add, this is maybe a little not for here, but you asked how you might like us for you to teach next semester and the following.
Oh, we'll talk about it in the class because the rest of the audience won't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Um,
But it would be rasa.
okay.
And
Okay.
okay.
That's yeah. Okay, maybe. Yeah. Miriam was doing one of my classes, and I usually ask them, what should I teach next quarter? And they didn't give me an answer. So I said, so that's what she's replying to.
We need to be schooled in this aesthetic.
So the reason I said it's, when I talked about the aesthetic, I said it's dry is because I haven't internalized it to talk about it as though I know it. I am not schooled in Indian music or any of the arts in a formal sense. Any Indian musician will be able to talk about it very differently, which I can't. So that's why I only put the words down. And while I was putting the words down, which I was reading from my computer restarted twice, which made it a little hard. You guys can't see that, but it restarted twice. That's why I could see me going and doing something. It's a little concerned about the time. We have a minute more, but we can overshoot a bit. Yeah. Dwani. Dwani is I found the Dwani really intriguing because it says it is that which evokes the beauty in the poetry or the drama is what is not said. And all of that has come up in your mind, but it is not actually said. And I thought that was, I had not come across that way of talking about beauty. And I thought that was a breakthrough. I mean, it happened in the 9th century. So, yeah, 9th century, there was Ananda, there was a different guy who came up with that. And you can actually see the way they are building it up. By the 12th century, he's really taken to a different height, where he really connects the rasa to the Dwani. And they divide it and they say there are 10 kinds of rasas that can come up. And they come from these emotions, and the Dwanis can be evoking them in this way. And now I'm out of my depth. So I should stop talking on that. Okay, we are out of time, but any last question, any last comment from either real people or these little rectangles on my screen?
You have a question in the chat.
I do.
From Wayne.
Yeah, the problem is I can't. Okay, there. Let me have to find it. I don't know.
I can read it if you want. If you can.
Yeah. Please read it to me.
It's if our experience can all be observed, sensed, felt. Does this mean we have an underlying awareness, a neutral that can sense beauty and ugly?
You know, it's a tricky one to answer because as you ask the question and as I am hearing the question, I'm asking the question myself, I know I am asking the question. And when you sense in this way, all the operations of the mind change. And maybe beauty will present itself very differently in a way that the thinking mind cannot quite grasp, but your embodiment may respond. That's a strange answer to give, but that's what I have with me. Meaning a completely different understanding may come because the elements with which you're working are different from when you ask the question in an ordinary sense, and when you're trying to make sense out of it. You know, is there another consciousness that is more neutral? And it is, so you need something that you can, so who's looking at this consciousness? Where did it come from? All these, there are very interesting ways of looking at it. I don't know the answer. My sense is that when you directly sense this way, the answers open up differently in a way that I can't put in words now. But you may want to explore by this direct sensing with any of the senses. Yeah. Okay. We are a few minutes beyond time. I wish I should have put a little more time for discussion, but here we are. I thought I did badly because my computer crashed twice and my explanation of Dwani and Rasa was not quite flying. Until I got you all into the senses, I thought, man, this talk is not working. So here we are. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and going through the
You could
practices.
have never told us about the computer, we'd never known.
You would have never known. I knew. I was stressing out here. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.